Hello, everyone. So, back again with a quick March recap. I tried recording this on Riverside, and I don't know if it was just the app, my phone, or just user error, probably more than likely user error. Uh, couldn't find the recording, didn't know if it fully finished, but I kept getting like a weird reconnect prompt. Or like buffering prompt throughout the entire time I was recording. So still gonna try and figure that out. And just because everything's supposed to be moving over through Riverside here come like in a few months. But until I figure out and stop being an old man about this and try to learn new technologies, uh, thank you everyone for listening to the podcast. I haven't been checking any like of the numbers lately, or just even opening the app, just because I've recorded a good amount of time spread out over like to basically get me ahead and keep me ahead. And I even have more that I need to be posting and uploading here in a little bit. But I just wanted to kind of break things up and make sure I get a March recap in. No big changes, no big announcements coming from me on the March recap. Did kind of want to touch on a little bit with my annual challenge of 366 days of horror movies. So that's coming along pretty good. This month was actually a really good, solid month uh, for movies that I had just lined up. A lot of them I didn't watch any trailers on. Usually, if I'm just discovering new movies or if I get curious about a movie, I may watch a trailer just to be sure, like, oh, this is warranted. However, since I'm doing this and needing to really branch out a lot to see a bunch or to be able to watch a lot more horror movies than what I currently have in my like library and what I know in my wheelhouse, I usually would just find one that kind of sounds good and just go ahead and play it. Just throw the dice on there. There have been some bad ones, there have been some okay ones, and there have been some like really, really good ones. Uh, Doing this month, I did for spring break. I had a whole week of vacation horror movies. Um, there were a few that were just kind of like, what the hell is this? And then there were two really good standout ones that I was like, holy shit, like these are actually really, really good. One being Influencer, that is on Shudder. Uh, just the poster art or the cover art on there for the tile looked interesting and gorgeous. Didn't want to give it like a trailer watch just because that pulled me in enough to be like, I'll give this movie a shot regardless. Surprised the heck out of me, and even just reading the Shudder reviews on there, like a lot of people were also impressed with it. I think there were a lot of like 5 and 4 star ratings on there. Even the lowest, I think, was like a 3, but even then, like it still had a good amount of praise for the movie. So that really does say a lot. Would love to have a physical copy of that in my library, but it seems like right now it's strictly digital. So hopefully someone will come out with a physical copy that I can just grab and throw in there. Another good one for the vacation horror that also really surprised me was A Knock at the Cabin. I heard a few podcasts on it, and one of them, the guys over at Horror Movie Club podcast, were talking about this, reviewing it, and they also have. I was listening to their episode. They also go into like spoiler territories when they talk about the film in depth. So even knowing what's going to happen, knowing all the events and how the movie plays out, I was like, oh, okay, I'll still give it a watch because they had some good things. One person, well, not one person, but Michael Rosenbaum on the Inside of You podcast, who was talking to Camille Nanjiani, also mentioned the movie and because they were talking about Dave Bautista and said that Dave Bautista was essentially like the star of the movie. Just he was so captivated by the character and how well he acted that character out. He just stood out and carried the movie. So they gave me enough praise and accolades to intrigued me to watch the movie. And when I watched it, I mean, holy hell, I was completely blown away. One, by Dave Bautista, and two, by how well the movie was executed. It is an M. Night Shyamalan movie, so usually if you're a fan of M. Night Shyamalan or have seen a good amount of his movies, you kind of notice that the bar a little low, just because the actings, especially in the later movies, are really really subpar and a little bland and a little flat. But this was actually like it worked for the character, and there was a lot more liveliness and characteristics in the mannerisms and the vocal distinctions of each character. And so, like, Dave Bautista really did play his part very well, and I was shocked and amazed at it because he was a very quiet riot, a very calm storm, and I was expecting, I was looking, even though I didn't know, I knew it wasn't coming, but I was expecting a snap at some point. The snap never came, but even still, without that snap, he was just a very calm, but still very imposing. And I was like, that's just crazy. I could feel him through the movie, like just the aura he's putting out. Uh, so yeah, I would definitely say give that movie a watch as well if you ever get a chance at any point in time. Just ended at the end of the spring break time. It ended Sunday the 17th, so right on St. Patrick's Day. So I started watching all the franchise or the complete franchise. Well, not complete franchise, but the at least the Warwick Davis part of the franchise of Leprechaun. So I got to watch all six movies. I've only seen the first and bits and pieces of like the third and the fourth, but to actually see them all was a really good experience, even though the movies just really were kind of terrible near the end. Uh, Back to the Hood was definitely a really good one. I felt like even if it wasn't like a Leprechaun-esque movie, if you were to put any other creature there, it still would have actually been really good. Uh, In the Hood was a little bit more goofy and just out there. That's the one thing I did take away from the Leprechaun movies. At some point, they became really farcical, and they knew that they were getting made fun of, and that they were just not being taken seriously. So they kind of turned into that skid, and just became like horror comedies, and it worked for the most part for them. But for the installments that they were doing, the inconsistencies, it was just like it made them a little hard to watch. Not necessarily just keeping up with everything, but just be like the writing is also just not there. Warwick Davis does an amazing job as a Leprechaun. Uh, so I mean, he just delivers and does his part well. It's usually everyone else that's kind of just like, okay, you know, like I'm not really too interested in these people. They can live, they can die. I couldn't really care less. And then we just watched the open house the other night, which was also kind of like a weird tame horror movie, um, almost similar to The Rental, I believe it was called. But The Rental did it a lot more in a hard hitting way. This was kind of like maybe like almost a really tame, watered down, kid friendly version to like intro is it entry horror. Uh, Still kind of enjoyable near the end, but otherwise it was. There was, I mean, even my wife was just like not really getting into it. Uh, I'm still not going to completely down talk the movie. It was still enjoyable to, some extent. Closing out the month here, we got Easter coming on the 31st, so I have Critters 2 set for that day because it takes place during Easter. So that means I get to have Critters for the whole weekend. Probably watch all the way through 5, maybe not Return to Critters. Because I think if it's Critters 1, Critters 2, Critters 3, and then I think 4 is in space, or 3 might be in space. Either way, just gonna watch those movies, and I love those movies, even though they're just kind of like the Leprechaun series. They were a bit serious in the first one, very farcical in the second, third, and the other entries, but they kind of turned into that skid. And with the Critters, it worked really well, just because of how they were, and they were still a very ominous threat, so it still kept that horror vibe there too. So looking forward to watching all of those. And then we have the eclipse here in Texas. So I'll get done with the Critters movies a few days prior to the eclipse. On the day of the eclipse, I will be watching From Dusk Till Dawn 2, just because it takes place during an eclipse as well. So that means the day before, I'll be watching From Dusk Till Dawn, and then Dusk Till Dawn 2, and then Dusk Till Dawn 3. Um, but yeah, like those are my big prominent movies I have set for right now, that are just tied to certain things. Since April Fool's Day falls right after Easter, I'm not going to be watching a movie specifically set for April Fool's Day. There is a movie called Holidays that's supposed to encapsulate like all the holidays that kind of don't have like big movie entries. Uh, but since I'm going to be covering Critters during that time, I'm just going to save it for another holiday. Uh, and then, yeah, just trying to plan out the rest of May and the summer months. We do have Midsummer coming in near the end of June. Juneteenth, I will be watching Annabelle or Antebellum. Um, Probably may watch The Blackening around that time too. Just depends on how things work out. Just because The Blackening does take place on Juneteenth, but I feel that Annabellum is a better fit for Juneteenth than The Blackening. Did also get some really good deals, or not really good deals, but picked up some really good movies in 4K just because Walmart just released a bunch of steelbooks. From what someone on Reddit said, that Walmart picked up all the copies, all the steelbook exclusives from Best Buy, and will be selling them in store. He said street date on those is supposed to be April 2nd. Most of them will be $5. So like the Blu-rays and the 4K maybe will be like around. Oh, the Blu-rays for sure will be around $5. The 4Ks maybe a little more, but they're just trying to liquidate all that stock. But it seems like some of the WalMarts have already put out like some of the big ones. So I got a Train to Busan on 4K. Kind of sad it doesn't come with any other disc, just the 4K disc itself. So it doesn't have like the 4K, the Blu-ray, and the digital code. It's just strictly the 4K movie. But that's fine. I've been meaning to get that for my library for a long, long time. And my daughter's been wanting to watch it because she hasn't seen it, and I haven't seen the spiritual successor to it yet. And after reading reviews, I kind of don't want to. I also got the 4K release of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, in the steelbook. So it comes with the 4K Blu-ray and then a secondary Blu-ray disc that's just all featurettes. Again, I'm not really like a steelbook fan. I do appreciate them now a little more just because of what they're able to do for like artwork and certain movies to kind of like they're made for the fans of said movies. But if I can do without getting the steelbook copy, then I will do without getting the steelbook copy. I didn't get the steelbook copy of Creepshow just because I can find it cheaper, and two, I don't really care. I'm not a big enough fan of steelbooks and Creepshow to get the Creepshow Blu-ray or the steelbook. But I did find the a 4K copy of it on Amazon for a little cheaper than the $30 that they're asking for. And it has the original artwork and not this weird kind of comic style ish artwork. So I'd rather have that than the steelbook. And then I also got a non horror movie as well, just because the movie really does deserve it. And when I saw it, and I'm like, holy hell, I don't know if this is just going to be a one time only limited edition thing or if they're just going to come out with just a regular 4K for it. But I got the 4K copy of Dread just because that is actually a movie that was worth having on Blu-ray, and the fact that everyone was wanting a 4K release and the sequel made, and then the 4K copy came out, but it was digital only. So I managed to buy that for like $6 through Apple and through Apple TV. So I have a digital copy of it. I had it for a while, but now I got a physical copy of it, and I didn't know if it was just an overall limited thing that they're doing just for steelbooks, but I had to get that because that movie is glorious in Blu-ray and it's even more glorious in 4K. It's worth watching in all those formats in the highest quality, and it's worth having in those qualities. They do have like Creature from the Black Lagoon, Hollow Man, and a few others that I am kind of interested in, but I don't necessarily have to have. So if, when I get a little more money, if they still have them, I'll grab them. But I got the three that I wanted, and I'm happy with those. And I'm just going to wait till April 2nd as well and see if my stores put out those Best Buy Steelbooks and how much they're going to be and which ones they have. Because there are quite a few Best Buy Steelbooks that I wanted. But of course, Best Buy just liquidated just about everything as fast as they could and consolidated what was left of their physical movie inventory and just said screw it and did whatever they did with them. So hopefully there's still a good amount of ones that I can grab. I don't care if they're steelbook or not at this point, just the fact that they're $5. And if they're ones I've been wanting, I am going to snatch them up. If they are not $5, as long as they're still like reasonably priced and don't have that weird kind of Best Buy markup that some of them had, then I will still grab them. Still also trying to get more horror movie ideas for adding to my collection and just overall like viewing. But I got the rest of the year. We're already like over 80 days into the year, and so I have like almost 280 days left. It's 280 movies I need to watch, which is easily done. But it's just planning everything out and getting everything set. Getting everything worked out and set, so that way I can just be like, cool, I got this, and it helps the year go by the rest of the way. But thanks for listening to this update. I usually, again, try to keep these real short and simple. I did have a sit-down conversation interview or one-on-one conversation with Jarrell from Underachievers. That's going to be coming out, I believe, next week, the first week of April. And then trying to see if I can get some more one-on-one podcasts. I may try and keep those like long form instead of just the 1 hour that this app lets me have. Just because doing a 1 hour conversation with Jor-El and also doing a 1 hour conversation with everyone else that I would like to have on goes by real fast. And we're just naturally, the chemistry that we all have is just naturally there. So like the conversations just come and just start flowing. And next thing you know, it's an hour, and we're like, oh shit! Like we kind of wanted to touch on some things, but we touched on a few. We just needed more time. Or I may just record and then just break them up into like 2 parts. But for trying everything out, I did want to just stick to the 1 hour and just see how it went. I was really happy with how it went. You will notice a little bit of like an audio quality change just because we were using his microphones and his lavalier microphones. But so I'm gonna work on all that and try and get some more one-on-ones. I do have some people lined up that I would love to talk to and just love to have episodes with. But we'll see how things go, especially since I'm going to be having my 1 month off. So thanks again for everyone, for all the listenings, all the plays, all the views. It's really, really appreciated. The 3 people that watched my Mirror's Edge or listened to my Mirror's Edge podcast, thank you so much for that. And the few people that interacted with me on that too as well. So catch you guys next week in the studio with Jor-El and also possibly with Jarrell again, because we did record something else about the Rooster Teeth podcast that should be coming out. I think that came out this week or next or last week, one of them. So again, I will catch you all next time. I am already at home. I will see you all on the next drive. Take care of yourselves, and I love you all.